in, right? So if I'm willing to spend that much time just researching and going and getting a feel for what all is out there for a laptop, imagine how most people feel, and how myself included, whatever, how we feel when you're going through the process of purchasing a home, right? This is often the largest purchase that you will make in your lifetime. And you're trying to factor in all these different decisions and things that you're trying to discover in real time about this particular house and whether or not that house is the one that you want to purchase. The average home showing, when I'm out and about showing properties, the average home showing is usually about... Welcome to the Home Goals Podcast, the ultimate guide for turning your home goals into a reality. I'm your host, Derek Thornton. Join us as we navigate the twists and turns of obtaining a home, where we offer expert tips, helping you avoid pitfalls, and championing your journey towards that cherished place to call home. In this week's episode, we will be discussing the ways that you can use open houses to your advantage as a buyer. Not just simply so that you can tour a house that you may be putting an offer on, but I'm going to tell you how I advise my buyer clients to use that to help prepare them for the home buying process. Right? There's a lot that can be gleaned from that experience and from getting to tour those houses. And you don't always get a chance to just walk through someone else's home, right? Unless you're actively looking and searching for properties. Open houses can be a very, very effective tool and almost a secret weapon to helping you discover how to make sure that you're in the best position possible when you're ready to actually make that leap into home ownership and ready to start the process. And so we'll discuss things that I tell people to look out for, what you should do, how you should use it, and when really to kind of start the process, right? Because again, it is something that kind of prepares you for that process. A lot of times people are going to open houses either A, because they're actively looking and they genuinely see a house they're interested in, or B, which is the more common reference, they're just going just because they're looking for something to do that day and they just don't mind looking at houses, right? Those are usually the two main reasons. And I don't have any problem with you doing the latter, right? Where it's just, I'm just going to be nosy. I just want to see what this house looks like. But I want you to be able to use that experience to your advantage, right? Don't just waste it and say, oh, that was fun to just walk through that house. You want to make sure that you're using that opportunity to really hone the skills that you're going to need when you start your home purchase. Open houses in general are a lot like window shopping. When I went to go through the process of buying my laptop, or whenever I'm going through any big purchase, right, something that's more than several $100s, something like I want to take some time to think about how I do and be very thoughtful in the way that I approach it. Anytime I'm looking into an experience like that, I'm always asking myself, okay, what do I need to figure out? What type of features am I looking for? What things are most important to me? Right? Is it the price? Is it the data? Is it the hard drive? Is it the speed, the convenience, the weight? There's so many different factors that go into just that one little decision. So I spend a ton of time researching online, looking at reviews, figuring out what other people are saying. So I do all of that research. Then I'll actually go to a lot of stores. I'll go to the Apple store. I'll go to Best Buy. I'll go to Walmart. I'll look at all these different places and try to see as many of these different laptops that I want to see in person, or as many of whatever it is I'm trying to buy, right? Whether it's a leaf blower, whatever it may be. It could be something out there, whatever, but I'm trying to get a feel for, okay, what do all the different options look like, and see them in real life to get a feel for how they may operate or how I might like to use them. I might say, hey, I love everything about this laptop, but I don't like the way the keyboard is laid out, or I don't like the way that this kind of is bulky, has a different feel or look to it, right? There's all these different factors that go into play. And as I'm looking at those things, all of those are kind of coming into helping me determine what decision I ultimately want to make when I'm ready to pull the trigger on that purchase. I've factored all those things in, right? So if I'm willing to spend that much time just researching and going and getting a feel for what all is out there for a laptop, imagine how most people feel, and how myself included, whatever, how we feel when you're going through the process of purchasing a home, right? This is often the largest purchase that you will make in your lifetime. And you're trying to factor in all these different decisions and things that you're trying to discover in real time about this particular house and whether or not that house is the one that you want to purchase. The average home showing, when I'm out and about showing properties, the average home showing is usually about 15 to 20 minutes long. And so think about it. You're walking through this house. You're walking through in each of the rooms. You're walking around the yard and stuff like that. If you're really interested, sometimes it might last about a half hour or so. But again, it's not a ton of time that you're really getting to really inspect and look through this property or this home that you're looking at before people make that decision. Now, granted, you still have a ton of time to do inspections and appraisals and see if there's anything that would cause you not to want to go through with the purchase of that house. But the way that the deal is structured, particularly in North Carolina, by the time you decide that you don't necessarily want that house and you want to back out of the deal, you likely have already spent thousands of dollars just to reach that point, right? And so even if it is something where you're like, hey, I can always change my mind, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you've lost or given up just thousands of dollars to go down this road that you really didn't need to go down. So again, open houses, in my opinion, are a wonderful opportunity for you to be able to really get good at just the art of looking for what you are looking for in a house, what you're searching for. The realtor is there, obviously, to help you determine where things stand with the valuation, if there's any red flags that they might see with the home that you may not have picked up on, right? There's a lot of things that you're going to have to lean on your realtor to kind of get a feel for, but there's also a lot of things that your realtor isn't going to be able to speak to, right? There's preferences that you have that your realtor may not have. I've helped people buy tons of houses that I myself wouldn't have liked, but it was the best home for them. And so you want to make sure that you have a firm understanding and a grasp of not only the key details that can make or break a deal, but you also want to understand what things are most important to you in that transaction, right? There's some people who have bought in condos downtown and they love it, right? They're like, this is the best thing ever. I, for one, would hate that, right? I want some more space. I want to have a yard. There are things that are important to me that may not always be important to who my clients are, right? So you need to understand what inventory looks like out there and try to get a feel for it, right? So you want to be able to get good at being able to tour a house. Believe it or not, touring a home is actually a skill. It's a skill that you have to develop and hone in understanding what things to look at, what's most important, because you're oftentimes trying to focus on what your general lifestyle would look like in this home, but at the same time, you're also trying to make sure that you don't miss out on any glaring issues or problems that are out there, right? So usually most homes kind of fall in one of those two categories, right? Where it's like it does a really good job of setting the stage of what your lifestyle could look like, right? They have all the perfect staging and the design and everything looks good, and you get so enamored with all of that stuff that you don't even notice the issues or the red flags, the problems that might be wrong with that house. And then there's other homes where the red flags are so glaringly obvious, right? As soon as you walk up, you notice this massive power line going over the house, or you see this really steep driveway, or you notice it almost immediately as soon as you walk up, and that takes away from you also being able to look and see, okay, from a practical standpoint, outside of whatever that issue may be, how does it feel for me to walk the house? What does the layout of the home look like, right? What are the features that are in that property? There may be a lot of other things that draw me to that home that outweigh whatever that initial red flag or issue may have been. And so you want to be able to get good at being able to see that, right? And the only way that you can truly get good at that is by practice, right? Touring houses on a regular basis. The more open houses that you can go to, the more you get an opportunity to see what things stick out to you the most. What things do you typically find most important, right? I love to cook, as I've told you guys many times before. And so when I go tour a house, I'm immediately drawn to the kitchen. I'm drawn to how much counter space there is. I'm drawn to what the appliances look like, right? What does it look like for me to try to make a meal in this kitchen? And I spend so much time daydreaming about that I may miss out on some key features about the living room that aren't necessarily what I would like. Or I might miss out on the fact that it doesn't have the bedroom space or the size that I want. Like, those are things that I might not notice immediately because I'm so focused on whatever my eye is drawn to, right? And so again, if you can tour a lot of open houses, you start to get in the field like, okay, these are the things that I'm typically drawn to when I walk into a house. Let me make sure that I also divert my attention away from whatever that is that's drawing me to make sure I can focus on everything else in this home, right? I'm no longer so enamored or distracted with the kitchen. I don't notice any other thing because I have shown so many houses over the years that the kitchens don't really impress me anymore, right? You've seen a billion kitchens. Like after a certain point, it's like, okay, here's the counters, here's the stove, here's the refrigerator, voila, okay, you got your kitchen, right? I don't need to go into any more details about it. And so you want to kind of get to that point too, where you have seen and toured so many houses that you now have the ability to look past whatever would immediately draw your eye, and you could focus on what's really important from a practical standpoint, right? Like all those other things that you wouldn't necessarily realize until after the fact, you can start to see those things up front. And so when you're going to tour a house, you say like, hey, not only am I going to tour all of the different rooms and look to make sure that there's no issues or things that I see in there, but I'm also going to make sure I do a thorough investigation of the around the property as well. I'm going to walk the entire yard. I'm going to look in the crawl space. I'm going to check the fence. I'm going to open it up to see how it opens. I'm going to look to see if there's any things with the neighbors' properties that might become an issue down the road. I'm going to look at all of those things. And again, I'm going to get in the habit of doing that once I can tour more properties, right? A lot of times buyers, they usually don't try to hone the skill of touring houses and seeing what they like until they're actually in it, right? You don't want to do that, right? You don't want to add the pressure of trying to learn how to tour what you like in a property on top of all the other pressure that comes along with moving and buying a house and mortgages and all that other stuff. You want to make sure that you can truly just set aside some time for it, allow your mind to truly think about whether or not that's the best option for you. And you get to notice other things as far as, like, let's say, for example, the listing photos. I say all the time, listing photos were not designed to give you an accurate depiction of what that house looks like. The listing photos were designed to get you in the door, right? From a listing agent standpoint, when I'm helping a seller, our primary objective and goal is to get as many people through that door as possible, get as many showings as possible, right? And we know the photos are one of the most effective ways for us to do that. And so when we're going through the photos, we're not trying to show you, oh, this room looks kind of small, or, oh, this one has a, now granted, we're not purposely trying to misrepresent, but also we're trying to highlight the best features. It's like a dating profile, right? You're not going to take a picture that shows maybe like some of the rolls in your stomach, right? You're not going to take stuff that shows a less flattering view of yourself, right? You're going to make sure that you get the right angles, get everything in the right lighting so that you look as attractive as possible in those dating profiles. It's the same thing with the house, right? We're going to paint that house in the best lighting and picturing possible so that we can get more people in that door. When you go to open houses, you'll be able to see, okay, yes, I know this is what the photos look like, but I know there's a very real chance when I actually see this home in person, here's what it's actually going to look like once I actually see those things, right? And you're going to start to look for other things as well. You're going to look on Google Maps to see, okay, what does the surrounding area look like on the house, right? That may not be shown in the listing photos. You're going to look on Google Earth to see, like, okay, what is around that? What's an aerial shot of that property look like? What's it look like from the street view? You're going to look at all those different factors and features. If they offer a virtual tour, you're not just going to go through and just quickly zoom into room and go from room to room and just get a quick feel for it. No, you're going to go in each room and you're going to look all the way around. You're going to try to figure out if there's anything that you can pick up on that may not have automatically shown up in the photos. And that's going to get you better at, again, the art of not only touring houses, but selecting houses that you actually want to tour. Right. Like I said, I cannot begin to tell you, and I've been on both sides of this, where I've worked with buyers and I've also worked with sellers who receive this feedback from buyers. But I cannot begin to tell you how many people go out and tour a house and then immediately find something about that home that they don't like, that they could have easily seen if they had just looked on Google Maps or Google Streets or gone through and looked at the virtual tour. They could have easily seen it before they got to the house, but because they didn't go through that process, they just saw, ooh, pretty picture, I'm gonna go see that house. And then they get there and they see whatever it is that turns them off, and they're immediately like, oh, I don't want to see this house anymore, right? And so you don't want to waste your time like that. You don't want to throw in other houses that you know aren't of interest to you. You want to make sure that you're doing all the appropriate steps to make sure that you are being very intentional and detailed about the way that you tour these houses, right? You want to notice those differences immediately right out of the gate. And the more you do this, the more you'll get better at being able to pinpoint exactly what's on there, right? And so open houses, like I said, are a wonderful opportunity for you to do this. One, just from a courtesy standpoint, right? You don't want to get in the habit of asking your realtor to show you houses that you have no intention of buying, because you're potentially displacing that seller or that homeowner from the house for a sham of a showing, right? Is like you're not even really interested, and you're making them pick up and uproot their lives, whatever, to kind of get out of the house for 30 minutes or an hour so you can take a look. But then also, like, even if it was vacant, you're still getting those sellers' hopes up, right? You're like, oh man, we got a showing on the house, right? Someone finally wants to see it, and only to find out that it's just you who's just kind of just playing around and not really serious about touring that house. Open houses, again, are just a wonderful opportunity for people who are serious, as well as people who are just touring and just looking at houses, right? There's a wide gamut of the expectation, right? And so from a courtesy standpoint, open houses are a wonderful opportunity, and there's a lot better than you trying to set up a showing on a house that you have no intention whatsoever of ever buying, right? So open houses are great from that standpoint. But then also, like I said, you have usually people who are walking through there with you. So you kind of oftentimes overhear what other people have to say about houses, right? Or what they're thinking when they're going through, and that can give you a little bit of insight into your competition. So when you're going through and buying these houses, if you end up competing with other buyers, you are likely to have a little bit more insight into what is going through their mind, right? What things are most important to the average buyer that's out there. And that's going to help you to be able to compete when you're going in that process. Because a lot of times you don't have access to be able to see what terms they're offering, what things are important to them. You just kind of just going based off of what works best for you, right? So you want to understand not only what you want in that house, but also understand what the competition is looking for as well. And then, like I said, you can also go through and kind of get an idea of the specs of the home, if there's any property disclosures, if there's any weird things that you typically wouldn't have ever thought of or even got an idea to look for. You might start getting that process once you get in the habit of touring and looking through different properties. Now, from the agent standpoint, right? There's usually going to be an agent that's hosting that open house. Sometimes it's the listing agent. Sometimes it may be an agent who works in the same firm as that listing agent. The majority of times, now I'm not saying this is all the time, but the majority of times with open houses, they are usually put on or hosted, not necessarily to sell the house, but more so to get buyer leads. Right. So that's oftentimes most agents' primary objective when they're going through and hosting these open houses. 9 times out of 10, the open house itself is rarely going to be what actually sells that house, because most of the serious buyers out there, they already have an agent, and their agent is going to show them that house, right? They don't need to wait for an open house to see that home. So most of the time, the people who are coming through an open house are just potential buyer leads more than anything else, right? And so just, again, make sure that you understand that mindset when you're talking with whatever agent may be there. They are oftentimes there to get buyer leads, right? And so when you walk through those doors, just understand they're probably going to be trying to figure out ways that they can work with you. Nothing wrong with that. Like, I've met plenty of past clients through open houses and stuff like that too, but just make sure you understand that. So if you already have an agent that you're working with, just make sure when you're going to tour these different properties that you explain that to whoever is hosting that open house. I already have an agent. Here's their name. I'm working with them. We just wanted to take a look around and see the house. No problem with that. Most of the time they'll say, hey, that's great. Come and take a look around or whatever. But again, you're setting the stage for you just getting that practice of kind of touring houses without necessarily inconveniencing someone else or putting some expectations out there that don't need to be, right? And so again, open houses can be a wonderful way for you to really get that practice in and really learn how to figure out what is most important to you about that house, so that when it is time for you to pull the trigger, instead of you kind of hesitating or being scared, you know immediately, right? Like when you make those big purchases that you've researched for weeks on end, and you've gone and toured different places, you've seen it in person, you've looked online, you've gotten reviews, you've gotten experiences from other people, right? once you can do that, you can make a more confident decision, and you will also be able to really, in a sense, detach yourself emotionally from it so you're not too focused. And so these are all important things for you to keep in mind. And like I said, open houses can really be a secret weapon to you making sure you are the most prepared buyer you could possibly be. He or she who wins the negotiation is the one with the most knowledge, right? So this is a wonderful way for you to get that knowledge and to get that information. So hope that that's helpful for you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.